Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast, brought to you by the Union Club Hotel. I think Tom Dienhart is in a union of his own right now at the University of Maryland.
He broke into the dorms.
It's not part of our official sponsorship package, but we appreciate Mr. Dienhart's grit for getting here and being able to share with us what was a pretty wild Purdue victory today over Maryland, 31-29, and the Boilermakers get the win. I want to thank the Union Club Hotel. Oops, there you go, and the 811 Bistro, the Boiler Up Bar. Probably a happening place a little bit tonight as Purdue is finding itself in a very good position after a very crazy, wild, whatever word you want to use, a victory at Maryland that. A lot of plays in that last quarter that were very memorable. Tom, just your initial comments. Jeff Brom obviously relieved and happy with this win, and really right now the table is set for Purdue to continue to set sail in this month of October that you've talked about how important it's been. Purdue is off to a good start. Whoop, lost your audio there, Tom. Flip up there you go.
Hello?
Yep, here, just a little bit higher. There you go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. All right.
Yeah.
You heard my question. Did you hear my question?
Yeah, I heard your question. Okay.
All right, fire away.
Yeah, 2-0 in October. Obviously, winning both these games on the road is huge. Going to Minnesota and winning when Aiden O'Connell's not 100%, and then of course getting the win today at Maryland was another big one. A lot of adversity today as well. The offense really went into a malaise in the third quarter there with turnovers on 3 consecutive possessions. What was amazing about that, guys, was Purdue didn't allow 1 point off any of those 3 turnovers. So the defense continues to maybe be, for a second year in a row, the real underlying story of success to this program. Still has yet to allow a 100-yard rusher this year. Has only allowed 1 run over 20 yards. And guys, for the third game in a row, too, the defense was on the field and delivered a play to seal victory, right? They did it against Florida Atlantic with the forced fumble. You had the interception, of course, last week at Minnesota, and today they got the stop on the 2-point conversion pass by Maryland in the end. So, boy, you got a defense playing like that, it's got to give your program a lot of confidence.
Yeah, no doubt, and as good as it played, and of course Maryland. Obviously had the big drive after the game-leading touchdown, the pass from Aiden O'Connell to get Purdue ahead. But you have to be impressed with that. Brian, your thoughts after this win. This is a team that at least today and against, like Tom said, against Florida Atlantic, against Minnesota, has found ways to win. In a what was a tough, and also the first time I think since 2006 that they've won back-to-back games, or at least in consecutive weeks, where they were the road underdogs. So pretty impressive.
Yeah, I feel so bad that I'm so comfortable here when Tom's going through.
We're just trying to find a little quiet spot. This is like a food court. You got a Chick-fil-A. I can pick you guys up some Panda Express maybe too.
I can use some of that. All right, there you go.
Yeah, no, it's. I have no idea what you just asked me.
I asked you about something. Just your reflections, Brian, please.
I think, you could scroll just to the fourth quarter of all these games, and Purdue's cramming all of its productivity into the fourth quarter, into the final 5 minutes. Actually, this is 2 weeks in a row. This is incredible. 2 weeks in a row, their only points of the second half came on their final 2 possessions. This game mirrored the Minnesota game in an uncanny manner. But I think that, it's really positive for Purdue that they've been able to survive these 2 games. They did so with Aiden O'Connell being less than 100%, Charlie Jones finally being taken away. You're still asking too much of the defense. You still got to score more. I mean, you just have to get more points on the board leading up to these climactic moments at the end of these games. Now, it's profoundly positive for Purdue that they've been able to win both of these games in the sort of manic manner that they weren't able to win those games earlier on in the season. But I think you still can do a bit of a better job staying out of these positions in the first place. And the turnovers today were kind of the culprit. That's 6 turnovers now in 2 games on the road. All 3 in the first half last week, I think. All 3 in the second half this week, right?
Yeah, and you won them both. against.
That's a hard way to win.
Yeah, it is a hard way to win.
And if Purdue could just do a little bit better job over the first 55 minutes of games, kind of greasing the tracks for itself to win, I don't think that they would have to survive the way they did. But that they survived the way they did, speaks to real maturity, a real clutch gene, especially, from Aiden O'Connell, from that defense and whatnot. Obviously, the defense gave up the late touchdown, but getting the stop on the 2-point conversion obviously was a big deal. You're still asking too much of your defense.
Yeah, I think that's the two things. It's fun. We don't take questions on the show, but I thought I got a good one from a female friend and every week viewer. She wanted to ask, why is childbirth easier to handle than watching Purdue football close out halves? That's a fair question, but the interesting thing is at the end of the first half, Calamity with the allowing a last, and I don't know whether Corey Trice, whether they blew coverage there, and you guys may have seen that better than I did. And then of course the end of the game.
He was probably supposed to have help behind him, if I had to guess.
I would guess somebody just didn't show up on that play. But talk about, Tom, there was just a ton of strategy, ton of things that were interesting at the end of this game. With the exception, Jeff Brom deciding to score on third down as opposed to fourth, which I think was the right thing. I think he couldn't risk that. And even some people asking, well, why didn't they go for two? Well, no, you don't go for two in that situation. You got to have the 8-point lead, in my opinion. They did the right thing. It all ended up well, but boy, does it make for interesting college football.
Yeah, you had to just kick the extra point and go up by 8 there. You'd be crazy.
I agree.
I mean, of course, that was a big point of conversation after the game in the post-game press conference was the strategy there, right? He didn't want to score too quick. But Jeff Brom talked about how he wanted to try to make Maryland use as much time as possible or actually for Purdue to use as much time as possible. And then also to get Maryland to burn its timeouts, which it did. So there was a bit of gamesmanship there. And they did score on the third down after O'Connell ran on second down. And they left Maryland, I think, with 40 seconds, I want to say.
Yeah, and time really wasn't a factor.
No. We had 120 left on the clock after they scored. Now, the other point of thinking was, I guess, don't score at all. Leave them with the ball at the 1-yard line. And probably at that point, you can maybe get the clock down to 40 seconds. Give the ball to Maryland with about 40 seconds to go on the 1-yard line. They got to get about 60 yards to get in the field goal range with no timeouts. So that was another option, too. But you could slice it, I guess, any different way you want. There are a couple of different ways you could have approached this and probably still been able to justify your line of thinking. Certainly helps when you win, makes your strategy look like it was the right strategy. But, boy, that was a harrowing time, guys. Maryland goes down and scores that 18-yard touchdown. And then, of course, a 2-point conversion gets called back, and they have to run it again. They throw it out of bounds. So, just a crazy last few moments of that ball game.
I think, Tom, if you lay it at the 1-yard line, I see 59-yard field goal in my future if I'm Purdue. The way things seem to roll out, I think you got to score there.
They've got a very good kicker, too.
Oh yeah, we've seen him. I think didn't he kick for Eastern Michigan when Purdue played him last time in 2017 or 2018 or whenever that was.
Yep.
So. I'm with you. You got to score, and you can argue the one thing, but the extra down or not. But as it turned out, they scored quickly. I don't think time really was all that big of a factor, as it turned out. No. Brian, you give now the road ahead, and we have to start looking at that. Nebraska gets a win at Rutgers. They will come into West Lafayette for a night game next week, which will probably be a pretty crazy environment. The game's already sold out. That's going to be a fun environment for Purdue fans, certainly. Wisconsin blows out Northwestern. That's a surprise, the amount. My point is, you had mentioned off air, you don't want to sleep on these interim coach situations. Don't just start counting victories for Purdue just yet as the Boilermakers make their way through the back half of the schedule.
Yeah, I think that the interim coaches are going to have a say in who wins the Big Ten West. I mean, the way those two teams are playing, Wisconsin just beat Northwestern 42-7.
Yeah.
I know Northwestern is not good. I was going to use a more colorful term, but decorum prevents me from doing that here.
Yes, I know.
I think those are going to be tough games. And I think, Purdue's got to play better. I mean, Purdue still has to shore up some things. They've got to be more productive over the first 55 minutes of games. They got to give their defense more margin for error, from an offensive perspective. I think today, if you just didn't turn the ball over, I think you were good enough, to put 30-some points on the board in advance of the final few minutes of the game, where your last touchdown basically was conceded to you after you made the big play on the Payne-Durham thing. I thought it was hilarious how I assume Purdue burned those first two downs at the goal line because they assumed that Maryland was going to let them score the way Minnesota did.
Yeah.
There's just something inherently hilarious about a team allowing the other team to score and the other team being in position just to say, nah, we're good. But anyway, I think Purdue can just do a better job offensively, just making a couple more big plays, cutting down a couple of turnovers, and I think you're that close to being, pretty good. You just gotta do it.
Tom, did you get any sense, maybe in person or maybe post game I thought Aiden O'Connell was really good. And I know in the third quarter he got sacked and whatever. His numbers were still pretty good at the end of the day. But do you get a sense of where he is on that percentage scale of, is he 70, 80%? Any feel from that and in terms of his performance?
I mean, it'd just be a wild guess, Alan. I'll just say this: from the way he played today, he's got to be close to 100% if he's not there yet.
Yeah.
Hit about 73% of his passes, I think it was, 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, the pick. Remember this too: the offensive line. It's starting to get a little thin up there, guys. They're down to 6 really playable guys at this point. Daniel Johnson the word is he's going to be out for an extended period of time. He may be out for the year. Jeez. So they're already down Cam Craig for the year. They could be down Daniel Johnson for the year. So they got about 6 guys that they're counting on to hold up here over the last 6 games. And O'Connell was sacked 5 times. There were 8 tackles for loss as well. So the running backs had some issues in pass protection too. So did the tight ends. It wasn't all on the line. Jeff Brom tried to absolve them of all the blame. He says a lot of guys are playing different positions up front too. He had Bo playing some tackle. He had Miller switching from the left to the right side. So a lot of moving parts up front. But it wasn't a great day for the line overall. But, like Brian said, they got it done in crunch time, scoring those 14 points. And to think about this too, Charlie Jones, I think, had 3 catches for 15 yards.
Right.
7 targets. Payne-Durham was a story, obviously, today. Best game of the year by far. I think it was 7 catches for over 100 yards. Of course, the big catch at the end for 56 yards sort of reminded me of that Music City Bowl catch, right? He was fighting guys off and rumbling and stumbling down there to get him to the 2-yard line. So big day for Payne as far as catching the ball. How about Mershawn Rice?
Yeah, too? Mershawn Rice is big.
We have a Mershawn Rice sighting. He hadn't caught a pass in Syracuse. I think he had maybe 5 catches today and a touchdown. So that was a guy that stood out as well this afternoon. And Corday Sidner, too. I got to mention
he was great.
Sidner.
Big time.
2 sacks, 2 TFLs. He leads the team in sacks this year with 4. This is a team we all know that's aching for a real good pass rusher. Kydron Jenkins has flashed. Scotty Humpich, he hasn't been 100%, guys. So he really hasn't stepped up. So maybe Sidner, remember, he's just a redshirt freshman. Maybe Sidney will be the elixir to maybe what ails Purdue when it comes to really getting a legitimate pass rusher off the edge.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific and extremely out. Cole Brevard made a big play in there as well. I mean, it does seem, Brian, that Mark Hagan or somebody's pushing the right buttons with those guys. It's good. It's really as good a defensive line play as I've seen here, in quite a while. I mean, it's I don't know if you go back to 2003, but it's close in terms of how well they're playing.
Yeah, I thought Purdue definitely won the physical battle at the line of scrimmage from a defensive perspective. I think a lot of guys did a lot of really good things, and I think that's set a very positive tone for the whole game. I think that one of the overlooked plays here that I want to mention, I think it was Kydron Jenkins. All I could see was a 4 on his jersey. He was the high defensive end on the 2-point conversion that failed. He was locked up with his guy, and he kept jumping to his outside shoulder to make sure that Tagovailoa didn't didn't get around the corner, make sure he didn't break contain. That was really savvy defensive line play. That's a kid who's been coached, assuming he did this on purpose. I mean, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he knew what he was doing and wasn't just kind of flailing to try to get away from the block. But keeping Tagovailoa in the pocket on that 2-point conversion, I think, kind of made the play. Yeah. Because had he gotten outside the tackles, he might have been able to run for that conversion, or it might have opened up some new avenues for him to throw that ball. Just a really good game for the defensive line, a really good game for that defense, period. I mean, obviously they made the one mistake before the half. They're entitled to making a mistake or two.
Yeah, I agree.
They just need help from the offense, that they just need some cushion on the scoreboard so that when they make that mistake, it's not as grave as it might be otherwise. But this defense the last two games has really come on. And now you have Jalen Graham back, and I thought he really showed up in the second half, made some really nice plays.
No doubt. I think that was a big deal containing Maryland's quarterback. Go ahead.
Things are working out.
9 tackles. The team with 9 tackles. He had a big pass breakup, had a TFL. Just presence alone, I think, brings a lot to that, the psyche of the defense overall. And he said he felt fine after the game. I had heard, guys, that he was really close to playing before the Minnesota game. I asked him that in the post game. He said he was close, but wasn't able to suit up. We obviously saw him today and what he means to that defense. My gosh, you get that swagger, right? That intangible, having him back there makes everybody better. And, boy, for a guy who hadn't played since September 1st, he played a lot of snaps, and he seemed to hold up pretty well.
Yeah. Brian, I'm going to finish your point, too. Is there anything else you were going to add to the Jalen Graham
I don't think so. I think I said my piece.
Okay. All right. Tom, I think Tom's order for Chick-fil-A and or Panda Express is up. And we're gonna let
back
you
to his biology lecture.
Qdoba's closed. They got a Maryland dairy over here that's still open. Maybe I can get an ice cream cone.
That'd be good. Well, you know what? These shows, win or lose, we do our best.
I was cruising so good, guys.
Lindy, my bad.
Yeah. The guy comes up and goes, press box is closing in 15 minutes. I said, you got to be kidding me, man. But I wasn't going to fight the man. I was going to obey. So I'm sorry I have to do this under kind of.
No, I like it. I like
circumstances.
That was your golden opportunity to drop a, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
yeah, right. They'd have called the cops. I'd be in handcuffs right now.
I like your very studious dark glasses. You guys both look smarter than I am, which you are by definition. But that part is good. So Tom, safe travels home. You got an early flight tomorrow, and there'll be a lot on the site as we look forward to what will be. No matter what you say, baby, it's going to be an interesting week just because there'll be a lot of people excited about that game next week when Nebraska.
Hey, real quick, guys. Not that it really matters, but do you think Purdue will be ranked this week?
I don't think so, but I don't know how close were they? They weren't close at all yet.
I think they got some votes last week, but I can't remember how high.
I don't know.
Just sort of food for thought.
That doesn't feel right to me at this point. But that's just me. I mean, I don't know. Right. I haven't looked at everybody's resume. I mean,
I'll tell you what, Ryan. They win their next 2 and they'll be ranked at 6-2, but they got to get that done. So good question. Good food for thought. We'll ponder that as we put our heads on the pillow tonight, and hopefully, Tom, you get to do that relatively soon with your early flight. All right, guys, thanks so much. Always interesting, and this one even a little spicier than usual. So that was a good thing. All right, guys. Thanks again. I want to thank the Union Club Hotel, the 811 Bistro, the Union at Maryland. Also, you might as well thank them because they provided. Yeah, so I'm sure that Vicky Wicks and the gang at the Union Club Hotel will be happy to do that as well. But
there's a quick look for you.
Yeah, there you go. It's kind of reminds me a little bit of what got finished at the basement of the Union as well, where that looks a little bit the same. So, all right, have a great week, everybody. Like I said, these shows are, at least for fans, are always fun, a little more fun after Purdue wins. I think Purdue fans will have a good night enjoying that. So
this one is really authentic from the bunker, right?
Yeah, it's a full-fledged bunker. Yeah. All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks again. We'll see you next week on our Saturday simulcast. So I would guess that it'll be Sunday before we do it because of that late game. That's kind of what we've done after those night games. but we'll keep you posted. I know that none of you can afford to not have this every week, so we'll deliver it in one form or another. So have a good week, all. Thanks so much.